You're not family, are you?
It was my husband Kevin's brother Brian's engagement party held at Kevin's family home. Brian, who had taken over the company from their father Edward, had invited both Kevin and me to this joyous occasion. But when I arrived, I noticed that there wasn't a seat set for me. Thinking it was a mistake, I asked about it, only to have Brian's wife, Emma, say with a smile,
I don't know what it's like for you two, always scraping by. But if you were that desperate to eat, I can pack up some leftovers for you to take home.
Unable to tolerate her attitude any longer, Kevin took my hand and turned to leave without hesitation.
Let's go.
Yeah. Emma must have felt quite pleased watching us leave with that triumphant look on her face. But if she had known what was coming her way, I doubt she would have been smiling so much, and I almost felt sorry for her. My name is Jessica. As I was nearing the end of my 20s and still single, I met a man through my friend's introduction. His name is Kevin, and he's a bit younger than me. He works as an illustrator, though he's still in the early stages of his career with only a few projects under his belt. While he might not have seemed like the most stable choice for a relationship, the first time I saw his artwork, I was captivated by his talent. It seemed like Kevin was interested in me as well, and after a few meals together, he confessed his feelings. Things moved quickly from there, and within a year of meeting, we were married. Now, we're both busy but enjoying a happy life together. Kevin's family was overjoyed with our marriage. Since his parents' home isn't too far from ours, we have a good relationship and make it a point to have dinner with them at least once a month. Although I can visit them comfortably now, I remember how nervous I used to be every time we went to his parents' house in the beginning. Right now, Kevin's father, Edward, and Kevin's older brother, Brian, live together in a house that's incredibly large. That's because Edward used to be the CEO of a company that almost everyone has heard of. The company has been passed down through the generations since it was a small operation, and Edward is the third generation to lead it. Although Kevin's mother passed away from an illness when she was still young, Edward managed to grow the business significantly while also focusing on raising their children. Now, Edward has passed the company on to Brian and serves as chairman.
I'm so glad you could come. It's always so much brighter and more fun when you two are here.
Oh, thank you. We always appreciate your hospitality. Though Edward doesn't say much, he's always kind, and I felt very fortunate. Then, one day, Brian announced his engagement. It was sudden, but we were all thrilled by the happy news. However, this marked the beginning of a story that would lead our marriage into turmoil. The first time I met Brian's fiancée, Emma, was on the first Sunday after we were informed of the engagement. When Kevin and I arrived at his family's house, a beautiful young woman I didn't recognize was sitting next to Brian. As soon as she saw us, she smiled warmly and introduced herself.
Nice to meet you. I'm Emma, and I'm dating Brian. I'm looking forward to getting to know you.
Oh, Emma, it's so nice to meet you too. I'm thrilled to have such a lovely sister-in-law. Since Kevin's family was all men, I was genuinely happy to have another woman around. Being 24 and younger than me, I felt like I had gained a younger sister. However, Emma was not the wonderful person I had imagined. I realized this when I headed to the kitchen to refill our drinks. As I was getting some sweets ready, Emma came over to help.
Jessica, you should have told me. I would have done it.
Oh, it's no problem. I can handle this. Meeting the family today must be pretty exhausting for you, right? I joked, and Emma smiled as if I had hit the nail on the head. By the way, how did you and Brian meet?
We met at work. I had my eye on him since I started, and after a lot of persistence, I finally won him over.
I guess that's the energy of youth for you, I thought to myself, impressed. Then Emma leaned in closer and asked in a low voice,
So since Brian's the CEO, what does Kevin do?
Kevin's an illustrator. He mostly does postcards and brochure illustrations. He's still just starting out though. I responded proudly, as I'm proud of Kevin's work. But Emma suddenly looked uncomfortable, as if she didn't know how to reply.
A rookie illustrator. Isn't that just a fancy way of saying he's an unemployed artist with a hobby?
No, he gets actual work. And it's a serious profession that takes more than just liking to draw.
But Brian's the CEO and Kevin does that.
The sweet smile Emma had earlier was now replaced with a condescending expression. I frowned, feeling upset that she was belittling my husband's work.
Oh, don't give me that look. Are you planning to draw some nasty cartoons about me on social media or something?
Of course not.
Please don't. Remember, I'm the CEO's wife. It could affect the company and I have a lot to lose.
At some point, Emma had finished preparing the sweets. Just before leaving the kitchen, she leaned in close to my ear again.
It seems like you're struggling a bit, so if you need help, just let me know. But please, don't keep asking for money, okay?
I would never do that. Emma ignored my response and walked back to the living room, smiling sweetly at everyone waiting there. I swallowed my anger, barely able to hold it in. I couldn't forgive her for mocking Kevin's profession, but I also knew that Brian truly loved Emma. Seeing the happiness on his face, I couldn't bring myself to ruin it. Also, Edward, though he didn't say it outright, seemed genuinely pleased about Brian's marriage. Since taking over the company, Brian had thrown himself into work, sacrificing his personal life. Edward likely always wished that Brian would focus on his own happiness, even though dedicating himself to work was necessary to learn the business from Edward. That wish had finally come true, and everyone was celebrating his engagement. Thinking about everyone's feelings, I began to wonder if it would be best if I just kept my feelings to myself. In the end, I didn't speak to anyone about Emma that day. I felt certain that I would continue to carry this burden alone. And as Kevin and I walked home together with my mind in turmoil, he suddenly asked me something.
Jessica, are you okay? It seemed like your mood dropped a bit at some point.
Really? I don't think so. I tilted my head, trying to brush it off. But even that seemed unnatural to Kevin, and he saw right through me. Resigned, I confessed to him what Emma had said. After listening to everything, Kevin nodded deeply and then suddenly apologized to me.
I'm sorry I made you feel that way. I need to work harder so you can feel more secure.
I don't think that at all. Being an illustrator is a wonderful job, and making people happy is an amazing thing.
Thank you. But maybe I should push myself a bit more. If Brian's getting married, I want us to move forward too.
Kevin smiled gently and pulled me into a hug. We don't have children yet, but it's something we both want in the future. When we expressed this desire to each other again, I felt like it brought us even closer as a couple. About a month later, Brian reached out to Kevin again. He told us that Emma was already pregnant. Since they were still discussing when to have their wedding, they decided to postpone it and instead planned an engagement party, inviting their colleagues and friends. Although Emma had said some harsh things to me before, there was nothing more joyful than the news of a baby. I sincerely congratulated them. Then Emma called me. We had exchanged contact information when we first met, but she had never reached out to me before. Wondering what she might say, I answered the phone a bit cautiously.
It's been a while. Did you hear from Brian? I'm pregnant.
Kevin just heard the news over the phone. Is everything okay? It's thoughtful of you to call.
I have something I'd like to talk about. So how about we go out for a meal soon? There's something I want to discuss with you, Jessica.
Thinking that she might want to discuss something related to the pregnancy, I quickly agreed without hesitation. A few days later, we arranged to meet at a local restaurant. I arrived at the designated time, and a few minutes later, Emma showed up as well. After placing her order with the waiter, she got straight to the point.
Would you work as a housekeeper for us? In secret, so no one finds out.
What do you mean? Apparently, Emma had been handling all the household chores at Edward's house by herself during the weekdays, and it was proving to be a heavy burden. Cleaning such a large house would be a massive task, not to mention maintaining the beautiful garden. But why does it need to be secret? Is there some reason it can't be known?
I want everyone to think I'm doing all the work myself. If they found out I was passing it off to someone else, they'd be disappointed in me.
She said this with a straight face and then pulled a brown envelope out of her bag. When I opened it, I found $1,000 inside.
Jessica, you're struggling with money, right? I'll pay you, so please help me.
Wait a minute. I have my own responsibilities, and I work at a restaurant in the evenings, so I can't do it every day. I worked at a restaurant kitchen from evening until late at night. To make ends meet, I had packed my schedule, so doing housework at Edward's place every day would be too much for me. When I explained this, Emma's expression turned noticeably sour.
Oh, are you saying the money isn't enough? Fine. How about 5 times as much?
That's not the issue. I have my own job and can't take on more. Why don't you ask Brian to hire a real housekeeper?
If I did that, I wouldn't get any credit for it. You need to think before you speak.
With a big sigh, Emma tossed the brown envelope at me as if she were throwing it away. She looked at me with utter contempt, as if she were tossing scraps to a stray cat.
You probably don't understand, but pregnancy is really hard. After I've offered you money and begged you like this, what kind of person would refuse?
That's beside the point. We're trying hard too.
If you won't help us now, maybe I'll make things difficult for you if you get pregnant someday. Though at your age, that might not even be possible.
Her words were nearly a threat, and I couldn't stop the cold sweat from running down my back. After saying all she wanted to say, Emma stood up and left before the food she ordered even arrived.
This cheap food doesn't suit my taste anyway. You can have it. See you tomorrow, and make sure no one sees you.
I was terrified of what might happen if I ignored her demands, so I felt I had no choice but to do as she said. At Edward's house, he and Brian leave for work at 8 a.m. and return around 6 p.m. My main hours for doing the housework are between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. During that time, I have to get all the cleaning, laundry, and cooking done. Repeating the chores I already do at my own home turned out to be more exhausting than I had imagined. Additionally, Emma goes out almost every day for leisure. Not even once does she offer to help with the housework.
You're getting paid, so please work like a proper housekeeper. Do you understand that you're hired help?
And when she returns, she's always empty-handed. She never even thinks of picking up ingredients for dinner. After 3 months of this exhausting routine, I had lost 10 pounds. Kevin was worried, but I didn't dare tell him the truth for fear of what Emma might do if she got angry. One day, as I was pushing through this grueling schedule, I got so tired that I decided to take a nap. However, when I woke up, it was already 4 p.m. I knew I had to leave quickly, or Emma would be furious. As I rushed out of the house, I unexpectedly ran into Brian at the front door. "Wait, I thought you weren't supposed to be home until 6.
I was able to come home early today. But Jessica, why are you here?
Too exhausted to come up with an excuse, I blurted out the truth. I had worried that he might not believe me when I revealed Emma's true nature, but his response was surprising.
I see. I'm sorry you've been through that. I really apologize.
Brian sincerely apologized and handed me a pristine white envelope. Inside was an invitation to his engagement party.
As an apology, please come with Kevin. I promise you'll get to see something interesting.
Still unsure of the meaning behind Brian's smile, I left the house before Emma could catch me. A month later, having completed my time as the housekeeper at Edward's house, I finally attended the long-awaited engagement party. The grand event was held at an extravagant restaurant rented out for the occasion, and the sheer size of the party naturally made both Kevin and me stand up straighter. This is quite the party. As expected from Brian, the CEO, it's on another level.
I'm shocked too. It's hard to believe we're actually related to all this.
As we were taking in the scene, Brian, looking sharp in a stylish suit, noticed us and came over.
Thanks for coming. I know you must be tired, Jessica, but I'm really glad you made it.
No, this is my first time at such a party, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Kevin, you too, make sure to stay until the end. I guarantee you'll have a great time.
With that, he disappeared to greet more guests. He seemed busy with all the introductions. As we were about to head to our table and started walking through the venue, Emma approached us again. Her stunning appearance was even more dazzling thanks to her dress.
So, you made it. What do you think of my dress? It was really expensive, but don't you think it suits me?
It looks great on you.
I'm glad I can wear something like this while I'm still young. It would take a lot of courage to pull it off at your age, Jessica.
Holding back a visibly annoyed Kevin beside me, I responded with a forced laugh. There's no end to this if I react to every comment.
Kevin, your seat is over here at the family table. Let me show you.
Following Emma, we arrived at a large table in the center of the venue. But no matter how many times I counted the chairs, there was one missing. What? There's no seat for me. Was it a setup mistake?
Oh no, I specifically asked them to remove it.
As I stared at her in shock, Emma smirked and continued.
You're not family, are you? The party isn't free, and we don't provide for people who don't belong.
That's just too much. I was invited, and now this.
Come on, you should be grateful just to be in a place like this. Isn't that enough of an experience for you? Or are you upset because you were just here for the free food?
With her pregnancy secured and the engagement party in full swing, Emma must have felt she no longer needed to hide her true colors. She began to openly belittle me, even with Kevin standing right there.
I don't know what it's like for you two, always scraping by. But if you were that desperate to eat, I can pack up some leftovers for you to take home.
At that point, we both hit our limit. I felt bad for Brian, but there was no way we could stay until the end.
Let's go.
Yeah. We turned on our heels and walked out of the venue. As we stepped outside and were about to hail a taxi, My phone rang. It was Brian. He must have seen us leaving. His panicked voice was loud enough for Kevin to hear.
Please come back. I promise you won't regret it. The real event is about to start.
Hearing the desperation in his voice, Kevin ran his hand through his hair in frustration.
Jessica, what do you want to do?
I'm upset, but Brian has been good to us. Maybe we can stick it out a little longer?
This will be the last time we see Emma.
When we returned to the venue, the guests were already seated, making it feel awkward to re-enter. Brian noticed us hesitating at the entrance and quickly grabbed a chair, motioning for us to join the table.
I'm really sorry about earlier. Forgetting to save a seat for such an important family member. That makes me a terrible brother.
His words lightened the mood in the room a bit. With his escort, I took the seat he had brought over.
This is Jessica, my brother Kevin's wife. She's incredibly friendly and the life of the party. Kevin really has a good eye for people to marry someone like her.
With that introduction, both Kevin and I blushed. Then Brian returned to the front of the room, took the microphone, and loudly announced the start of the party.
And now, I'd like to begin the engagement termination party.
Wait, did he just say termination? I hadn't misheard. The unexpected statement from Brian left the guests exchanging confused looks. Even Kevin seemed just as shocked as I was. Emma's face showed clear signs of panic.
Brian, what are you joking about on such an important day? This is supposed to be about announcing our engagement.
That's what you thought. But I planned this party to drag you down to rock bottom.
Brian stated this clearly. At that moment, the lights dimmed and a video started playing. It was a secretly recorded video from inside his house. At first, it showed just the background, but then Emma appeared on screen.
Finally, they're gone. Hurry up and get to work and make some money.
She muttered to herself, and then I appeared in the video. Emma quickly changed her clothes and left the house, leaving me behind.
Make sure you do the housework properly, like always. Yesterday, the bathroom floor was wet, you know? You're a housekeeper, so at least do your jobs right.
The video ended just as I started cleaning.
Brian, what is this?
This is the real you, caught on the house security camera. I was shocked when I first saw it.
The room was filled with murmurs, and Emma was the only one turning pale. She rushed toward me, ready to grab me, but Kevin quickly stepped in to shield me. Her rage was relentless.
You filthy hag. You told Brian everything, didn't you? After taking my money, how low can you get?
I didn't say a word. I kept quiet just like you told me to, not even telling Kevin.
Then are you saying Brian suspected me all along?
Emma, who had been so aggressive, started to lose her strength. She turned weakly to Brian and clung to him, her voice trembling.
You wouldn't doubt me, would you? This is all that hag's fault, isn't it?
There's nothing to doubt. It's exactly as the video shows.
Now, instead of admiration, Emma was met with cold stares from the guests who had just witnessed her disgrace.
I wasn't like that every day. I was just feeling a bit unwell and irritable. When I felt better, I helped Jessica with the chores.
Well then, why don't you make that mac and cheese we've had a couple of times recently? It's been on the table twice a week. If you really made it, you should be able to whip it up, right?
It goes without saying that Emma broke into a cold sweat. Unable to find a response, she burst into exaggerated sobs.
Why are you being so cruel to me? Even if we're family, spying on me is too much. We have a baby on the way and you're doing this. It's just not right.
She stroked her slightly swollen belly, trying to elicit sympathy from the guests. The room was visibly stirred by her words, and a buzz of unease spread through the crowd. However, Brian, seemingly anticipating this reaction, continued speaking calmly.
The truth is, exposing your true colors was just a side effect. I installed the security cameras for a different reason.
What do you mean, a different reason?
Recently, my house has been getting robbed, and it's been happening frequently.
Emma's eyes widened in shock. I'd been at their house every day for the past few months, and I didn't recall ever encountering anyone suspicious. Besides, during the times I wasn't there, Emma or Brian were usually around, so it didn't make sense for someone to be freely roaming the house. I never saw a thief. I was there every day, so I'm sure of that.
No, Jessica, you are meeting the thief every day.
Brian slowly pointed at Emma.
The thief is Emma.
Don't be ridiculous. How dare you accuse a family member without any proof?
This thief has been stealing small amounts of money and valuables from my dad and me. But strangely, none of your belongings ever went missing, even though you have plenty of noticeable, expensive items like jewelry and bags.
Brian then replayed the earlier video, this time in slow motion. As Emma left the house, something shiny could be seen in her hand. When the image was enlarged, it became clear that it was a watch.
That's the watch my dad has used for years. Lately, it's been sitting in a drawer. So why were you carrying it?
I was planning to take it in for repairs.
Then can you tell me the name of the watch repair shop?
Emma was cornered, losing her words with each question. She had likely been overspending, unable to cover her lavish lifestyle with just her allowance. To make up for it, she had been gradually selling off Brian's and Edward's possessions for extra money. Without this video, she probably planned to frame me if the thefts were ever discovered. I couldn't help but feel grateful for the security cameras.
If you didn't like it so much, you should have just given me more money. I'm pregnant and under a lot of stress. Don't compare me to you, who just escapes into your work.
Finally, Emma's facade had completely fallen apart, and she turned her anger on Brian as well. She thrust her belly forward, trying to intimidate Brian.
And besides, I didn't spend all the money on fun. I used more than half of it at the Department of Gynecology for our baby. It's my first pregnancy, and I was anxious, so I went for checkups frequently. I'm doing all of this because it's your child.
Even as Emma panted with emotion, Brian remained completely unfazed. In fact, he looked almost pleased, as if he'd been waiting for her to say that.
Then let's do a DNA test. If it proves the baby is mine, I'll apologize and give you money. I'll even let you have a credit card.
That's not necessary. This child is yours. A test is just a waste of money.
Is it really a waste? I don't think so.
Brian walked past Emma and slowly approached me.
Jessica, did Emma ever come home with anything when she returned?
No, she was always empty-handed. I often wished she'd at least pick up something from the store.
So Emma, after all the things you took from the house to make money, what did you spend it on?
The focus shifted back to Emma once again. She was visibly shaken, as if she had a secret she couldn't possibly reveal.
We've already looked into it. You spent the money on gambling and on a man you met there, right?
At Brian's signal, the video changed. This time, it showed photos of Emma at a casino with another man, and then the two of them holding hands as they entered a hotel. Unable to take it anymore, Emma screamed.
Stop it already. It's not my fault I cheated. It's your fault for making me cheat. I'm so young and beautiful. It's only natural that other men wouldn't leave me alone.
But that doesn't justify what you did. Because now you're going to lose everything.
What? Lose everything? But I've admitted everything, and I've learned my lesson. You'll forgive me, right?
Emma's mouth hung open in shock as she collapsed to her knees. Brian simply looked down at her with a smile.
I'm divorcing you, of course. And since you cheated while we were still married, I'll be asking for alimony.
Alimony? From a man who got cheated on? How pathetic. If you do that, you'll be a laughingstock for the rest of your life.
Emma tried to act tough, but Brian threw her phone at her.
Why don't you call your boyfriend? Maybe he'll help you out if he really loves you.
You'll regret this.
Emma started dialing.
My boyfriend is connected to some powerful people. No matter how important anyone here thinks they are, they're nothing compared to the people he knows. If you piss him off, you'll be the ones crying.
But after a few rings, the call was cut off without going to voicemail. No matter how many times she tried, the result was the same, and Emma became increasingly frantic.
The truth is, I already contacted him for alimony. He paid $30,000 right away and said he never wanted to see you again.
That's not true. He loves me. He'll come to my rescue.
Actually, he's not some big shot. He's just a broke old man with no real jobs. Seems like you got played too.
Emma, who had been cursing under her breath, was clearly in the same boat, having lied herself. In the end, it was just a case of two liars bringing each other down. Seeing her humiliated in front of so many people, I almost felt sorry for her. But then Emma met my eyes, clenched her teeth, and glared at me.
Don't you dare pity me. No matter what happens to me, I'm still better than you and your lowly family. Don't you dare look down on me, you washed-up old hag who couldn't even land a decent man.
What did you just say? You have no idea how hard Kevin works, so don't you dare talk about him like that. All the stress I'd been holding in exploded at that moment. I could tolerate her insults toward me, but I couldn't let her speak about Kevin that way, so I stood up. Kevin works tirelessly, sacrificing sleep to bring joy to others. I see how hard he works every day, so I know just how amazing he is. He's not someone you can casually mock. Kevin gently stepped in to calm me down as I became more passionate.
Brian, don't you think it's time to make the announcement? Now seems like the perfect moment.
Yeah, you're right. I apologize for the commotion earlier, but there's something else I'd like to share with everyone today.
Brian quickly walked over to Kevin, pulled a nameplate out of his suit pocket, and pinned it onto Kevin's chest pocket. The nameplate had the name of Brian's company engraved on it, along with the title Vice President.
My brother Kevin is going to be working with me as the vice president from now on.
What's that supposed to mean?
This was news to me too, so I was just as surprised as Emma. Brian, the CEO, had been learning the ropes of running the company under Edward. However, it seems that Edward has decided to fully retire from work by the end of this month. As a result, they would be short-staffed. So Kevin was chosen to assist Brian in his role.
Of course, Kevin will still focus on his work as an illustrator. It'll be tough balancing both roles, but Kevin graciously accepted the offer.
It's my dad's company, so I wanted to do something to help. And they're letting me continue with my illustration work, so it's a pretty sweet deal.
Kevin smiled shyly, took my hand, and looked at me tenderly.
Thank you for supporting me all this time. Now, it looks like you'll be able to take it easy, Jessica.
Kevin, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you. I couldn't help but hug him, and the room erupted in applause from the guests. But amidst the celebration, Emma was the only one who had lost herself in anger.
What? Are you planning to end up happy after all this? I won't let that happen. You need to stay beneath me.
Then, shockingly, Emma grabbed a fork from a nearby table and lunged at me. Kevin quickly slid in and restrained Emma. With the skills he had learned from practicing martial arts in his school days, Kevin left Emma completely powerless. She was quickly handed over to the police, who had been called, and was soon taken away in a patrol car. The venue was in disarray after the chaos, but it seemed Brian had anticipated this. He had rented another room in the same restaurant, set up exactly like the original venue. His level of preparedness was truly impressive.
We'll hold the after party in the next room. Let's switch gears and celebrate Kevin's new role with a bang, shall we?
Freed from all our burdens, we all raised our glasses in a collective toast. In the end, Emma was held by the police for a while due to the theft and her outburst at the restaurant. Brian demanded $40,000 in alimony for the affair, and I was also able to claim $30,000 in damages, with the video footage from his house serving as evidence. The woman who was supposed to become the CEO's wife suddenly found herself drowning in debt. Even after her release from the police, a harsh life awaited her. She had mocked Kevin's work, but her future was bound to be much harsher than anything he had ever faced. When I went to meet with her in the detention center to discuss the alimony with a lawyer, I was shocked at her appearance. She had been so beautiful, but in just a few days, she looked as though she had aged decades. It was likely the shock and despair about her future that had done this to her. In that state, she wouldn't even be able to work in nightlife anymore. I later heard that her baby was born safely. She came to us once, desperately trying to borrow money for living expenses, but she looked utterly exhausted, almost pitiful.
Since everything came to light, my family has disowned me. For my baby's sake, could you lend me just $100?
I feel sorry for your baby, but I'm not lending you a single cent. You could demand child support from the man you cheated with or find some other way. I steeled myself and turned her away. I knew that if I helped her now, she would likely spend the rest of her life clinging to someone else. And that would mean there's no future for the baby either. Startled by my words, Emma left without saying a word. I later heard that she had a significant falling out with her lover, but eventually managed to secure child support from him. Even so, Emma will likely be forced to live a life of bare minimums, and I wonder what kind of life she'll lead from now on. Unlike in the past, with her current appearance, it's unlikely that any man will come to her aid. I hope she learns to live as best as she can on her own strength. As for me, I became a full-time housewife after Kevin became the vice president. Part of it was at Kevin's request, but the main reason is that I'm pregnant. After that eventful party, I felt unusually unwell and went to the doctor, only to find out that I was expecting. After all the effort we put in as a couple, this news was incredibly moving. Kevin is now mainly focused on his work as vice president, but his illustration projects are also increasing. As his wife, I intend to support him with all my heart. I thought Brian might be feeling down after everything that happened, but that wasn't the case. In fact, it seems he had long suspected Emma's true nature, and rather than being upset, he has become even more cheerful and dedicated to his work. As a result, the company's performance has improved even further, or so Kevin tells me. This whole experience has been a significant lesson for both of us as a couple, to care for each other and genuinely respect one another. We want to welcome our baby as that kind of couple.
I can't wait to see my grandchild.
For Edward's sake too, I want to keep supporting our happy family.